The crack of a slap echoed through first class as Maya Henderson's boarding pass was ripped to shreds and tossed at her feet. The flight attendant's voice dripped with venom. "Crawl back to economy where you belong." Passengers stared, some smirking, others filming, while Maya stood frozen, her cheek burning, her dignity shredded alongside the paper. To them, she was a scammer caught red-handed. What they didn't know was that this scammer was the very CEO of the airline, a woman with the power to dismantle careers and corporations alike. Brenda Collins had just signed her own downfall with the whole world watching. Have you ever seen someone's prejudice destroy them in the most spectacular way possible? 3:52 p.m. departure in 23 minutes. Maya remained standing, her cheeks still stinging from the slap. She didn't kneel, didn't move toward the scattered paper fragments. The red handprint on her dark skin seemed to fuel Brenda's escalating rage. "Did you not hear me?" Brenda's voice rose to a shriek that carried through the entire cabin. "I said, get on your knees and pick up your fake garbage." She grabbed Mia's shoulders with both hands and tried to force her down. When Mia resisted, standing firm, Brenda shoved her hard against the leather seat. "You're making this worse for yourself?" Brenda snarled, jabbing her finger into Mia's chest. "Criminals like you always do." The word criminals hung in the air like poison gas. "Security. We have a violent passenger refusing to comply with direct orders." The commotion drew every eye in first class. Passenger Jessica Winters, a lifestyle influencer with perfectly styled blonde hair and designer clothes, immediately started live streaming from seat 1B, her phone perfectly positioned to capture the drama. "Oh my God, you guys," Jessica whispered into her phone camera, her voice dripping with performative concern. "There's literally a scammer in first class right now trying to steal someone's seat. The flight attendant is handling it absolutely perfectly." Her live stream counter showed 847 viewers and climbing rapidly like a rocket. Comments flooded the screen in real time. Finally, someone with backbone. "Good. These people always try this scam. Why don't they just follow simple rules?" Loved that attendant. "Zero tolerance. Should call police immediately." Manager Steve Morrison appeared slightly out of breath from running down the jet bridge. At 52, he carried himself with the aggressive authority of someone who'd seen everything in 20 years of airline management and wasn't impressed by anything anymore. "What's the situation here, Brenda?" He didn't even glance at Maya, treating her like furniture. "Attempted seat fraud, sir. She refused to produce any valid identification and became immediately combative and threatening when I tried to verify her obviously fake ticket." Morrison finally looked at Maya, his eyes scanning her simple outfit with obvious disgust and contempt. Jeans with a small tear at the knee that suggested financial struggle. Basic white t-shirt from a discount store, scuffed sneakers that had clearly seen many hard miles. "Ma'am, I'm going to need to see your boarding pass and government-issued photo identification immediately. No delays." "She already destroyed my boarding pass," Maya said quietly, her voice steady despite the chaos surrounding her. Brenda let out a harsh, mocking laugh that made several passengers chuckle. Because any blind person could see it was obviously fake. "Look at her, Steve. Does she honestly look like she belongs in a $2,000 first-class seat?" The passengers in nearby seats nodded vigorous agreement. An elderly man in an expensive three-piece suit and gold watch muttered loud enough for everyone to hear, "Disgraceful behavior. Absolutely disgraceful. In my day, people knew their proper place in society." His wife clutched her designer purse tighter and whispered, "I don't feel safe with her on this plane." Jessica's live stream had exploded to 2,400 viewers in just minutes. She angled the camera expertly to capture Maya's face, zooming in on the red handprint like it was evidence of justified force. "The poor flight attendant is just trying to do her difficult job," Jessica narrated with fake sympathy. "Some people just have absolutely no shame or respect for rules." The comments were getting progressively uglier and more vicious. Typical entitled behavior. "Should have called police immediately." Why are flights always delayed by these people? Ban her from all airlines. Press charges for assault. Morrison pulled out his official radio with practiced authority. Ground control. This is Flight 447. We need immediate security response to Gate 42A. Possible fraud and disorderly conduct situation in the first-class cabin. Maya reached slowly and deliberately into her worn leather messenger bag. As she moved, something metallic briefly caught the overhead lighting the corner of what appeared to be an official badge or Heil credential of some kind. Sir, if you just allow me to show you my... Keep your hands completely visible. Morrison barked aggressively, his voice echoing through the cabin. Don't reach for anything else without permission. Security Officer Derek Hayes arrived within 2 minutes, his muscular frame filling the narrow aisle. His hand rested casually but meaningfully on his handcuffs. Behind him came 2 uniformed airport police officers, their presence immediately drawing even more attention from boarding passengers who stopped to gawk at the unfolding drama. The digital departure board blinked ominously. Flight 447. Departure 18 minutes. What's the exact problem here? Officer Martinez asked in his authoritative cop voice, surveying the tense scene with experienced eyes. Clear case of seat fraud and disorderly conduct, Morrison explained confidently. She actively refused to move to her actual assigned seat and became immediately aggressive and threatening when questioned about her obviously fraudulent documentation. Officer Martinez looked directly at Maya with the suspicious gaze cops reserve for suspected criminals. Ma'am, do you have valid government identification and a legitimate boarding pass for Seat 2A in first class? She destroyed my boarding pass. Maya repeated calmly, her voice still remarkably steady despite the escalating hostility surrounding her from every direction. Brenda stepped forward, triumphantly playing to her audience because any person with working eyes could see it was completely fake. I've been doing this exact job for 20 years. I absolutely know a professional scammer when I see one. She turned theatrically to address the growing crowd of fascinated onlookers. This is exactly why flights get delayed constantly, people. Entitled individuals who think they can lie and manipulate their way into luxury they haven't earned. Several passengers broke into spontaneous applause. Jessica's viewer count hit 5,000 and was still climbing exponentially. The comments had become a toxic waterfall. Arrest her immediately. These people ruin everything for honest passengers. First-class fraud needs to trend nationwide. Sue her for the delay costs. Captain Robert Caney emerged from the cockpit drawn by the unprecedented commotion. At 60, he commanded automatic respect with his distinguished silver hair and heavily decorated uniform displaying decades of service awards. He took one comprehensive look at the chaotic scene and shook his head with obvious disgust. Ms. Collins is one of our most experienced and trusted flight attendants, he announced authoritatively to the captivated crowd. If Brenda says there's a serious problem here, then there's definitely a serious problem. Maya's phone buzzed insistently in her bag like an angry wasp. The screen lit up briefly through the leather showing missed calls, 15 board of directors. She deliberately ignored it. Morrison's radio crackled to life with static. Steve, this is Patricia Walsh from Regional Management. I'm getting multiple reports of a significant situation on Flight 447. I need an immediate status report. Morrison keyed the radio, speaking loud enough for the entire cabin to hear his authority. Completely under control, Patricia. Standard fraud attempt by a repeat offender. We're removing the individual immediately per company policy. Absolutely zero tolerance, Steve. Our premium passengers pay extremely high prices for premium service and premium security. Remove her immediately and permanently ban her from all future flights. The crowd murmured loud approval. This was genuine justice being served efficiently. Officer Martinez stepped closer to Maya, his hand moving toward his handcuffs. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to gather all your personal belongings immediately and come with us. You can attempt to sort this situation out at the gate with supervisors. Actually, Maya said quietly, her voice carrying a strange undertone of confidence that seemed completely out of place. I'd like to make just one phone call first. Brenda snorted with derisive laughter. You can call whoever you want from the airport terminal right after you're permanently banned from this airline and all partner airlines. Jessica zoomed in dramatically on Maya's face again, capturing every detail for her rapidly growing audience. Her viewers were sharing the explosive stream across every social media platform. Our first-class fraud was now trending locally in 3 major cities. The departure board updated ominously. Flight 447, departure 15 minutes, final boarding call. Time's completely up, Morrison declared with finality. Officers, please immediately escort her off this aircraft. We have a schedule to maintain. Maya looked slowly around at the sea of hostile, satisfied faces. 31st-class passengers, all watching her public humiliation with obvious entertainment. Hundreds of economy passengers craned their necks eagerly to see the troublemaker. Thousands more watched online as Jessica's live stream went explosively viral across the internet. She remained perfectly, unnaturally calm. Before you make that irreversible decision, Maya said, her voice steady as steel. Despite everything swirling around her, I think you should know exactly who you're removing from this plane. 3:57 p.m. Departure in 18 minutes. I don't care if you're the Queen of England, Morrison snapped. You're getting off this plane right now. The crowd erupted in laughter and applause. Someone shouted, "Finally someone who doesn't fall for the sob stories." Officer Martinez stepped forward, handcuffs now visible in his grip. "Ma'am, you need to comply immediately or you'll be arrested for trespassing and disorderly conduct." Maya's phone buzzed again. This time, multiple phones started ringing simultaneously throughout first class. Passengers began answering their conversations, creating a low murmur of business deals and important calls being interrupted. Jessica's live stream had exploded to 12,000 viewers. The comments were flowing like a toxic river. "This is taking too long. Just drag her out. I'm never flying airlines that tolerate this behavior. Should tase her. Stop wasting everyone's time. Hat. First-class fraud is trending. Justice served life." Brenda was now performing for the cameras, her voice projecting to the back of the plane. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for this delay. We're dealing with an individual who thinks the rules don't apply to her." She walked over to where Maya's boarding pass pieces lay scattered and ground them under her heel like cigarette butts. "This is what we do to fake documents," Brenda announced triumphantly. She then picked up the shredded pieces and threw them at Maya's face. "There's your first-class ticket, princess." The crowd cheered. Someone started a slow clap that spread through half the cabin. Maya brushed the paper fragments from her hair without flinching. "Brenda," she said quietly, "you might want to look more carefully at what you just destroyed." "I looked plenty," Brenda shrieked. "Fake boarding passes don't get more real when you stare at them longer." But something made her glance down at the largest remaining fragment near her foot. Her face went slightly pale as she saw partial letters. "Attendant execu." She quickly kicked the piece away before anyone else could see it. Morrison's radio crackled again. "Steve, this is Patricia. Corporate headquarters is calling emergency meetings. Something about social media attention on Flight 447. What's your status? The live stream viewer count hit 15,000. Jessica was now providing running commentary like a sports announcer. "Okay, everyone. It looks like airport police are finally going to arrest this woman. About time. She's been holding up this entire flight with her lies." More passengers had started recording with their phones. The scene was being captured from multiple angles, creating a social media feeding frenzy. A new complication arose as boarding gate supervisor Linda Lane arrived slightly out of breath and looking concerned. "What's happening here? I'm getting calls from multiple departments about a situation on this flight." Morrison immediately took charge. "Routine fraud removal, Linda. Everything's under control." But Linda Lane looked around at the crowd of phones recording the live stream setup, the airport police, and the obvious chaos. "This doesn't look routine, Steve." Captain Kane stepped forward aggressively. Ms. Lane, with all due respect, this is my aircraft and my crew's decision. We don't negotiate with fraudsters. He pointed directly at Maya. Security, remove her immediately. I want to depart on time. The pressure was mounting from all directions. Officer Martinez moved closer to Maya, clearly preparing to make an arrest. Last chance, ma'am. Come willingly, or you'll be carried off in handcuffs. The digital countdown showed 16 minutes to departure. Ground crew outside the windows were making final preparations. Other passengers were boarding the plane behind the police officers, creating a bottleneck of curious onlookers. Jessica's phone battery was running low, but she kept streaming. Oh my God, you guys. This is like watching live justice. I can't believe how entitled some people are. The comments were getting more vicious by the minute. White flight attendant, black scammer every time. This is why we can't have nice things. Should be illegal to waste everyone's time like this. Press all charges. Make an example. Brenda was now addressing the entire plane through the intercom system. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Senior Flight Attendant Brenda Collins. We apologize for the delay caused by a passenger attempting to use fraudulent documents to access first-class seating. The situation is being resolved by law enforcement. Her voice carried through the entire aircraft, reaching all 300-plus passengers. The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Passengers throughout economy class began shouting their support. Just get her off. We're going to miss our connections. Why don't these people ever follow the rules? Maya's messenger bag was now partially open, revealing glimpses of what appeared to be official documents and credentials. But in the chaos, no one was paying attention to anything except the drama. Officer Martinez made his decision. Ma'am, you're under arrest for trespassing and disorderly conduct. He reached for Maya's arm. Patricia Walsh's voice crackled over Morrison's radio again, but this time she sounded different. Urgent, almost panicked. Steve, I need you to stop everything immediately. Do not remove that passenger. Corporate is calling emergency meetings about this exact flight. Something about Morrison quickly turned down the radio volume, but several passengers had heard the transmission. What did she say? Someone asked. Did she say don't remove her? Morrison waved dismissively. Radio malfunction. Probably interference from another flight. But Linda Lane had heard it too, and she stepped closer to Morrison. Steve, maybe we should wait for clarification from no waiting. Captain Kane interrupted. My flight, my schedule, my decision. Officers, arrest her now. The crowd was getting restless. 15,000 people were watching online. Hundreds of passengers on the plane were demanding action. The pressure was immense. Maya looked around at the sea of hostile faces, the recording phones, the approaching handcuffs, and the complete chaos she had somehow become the center of. Then she did something no one expected. She smiled. Not a defeated smile, not a nervous smile, a smile that somehow suggested she knew something everyone else didn't. Officer Martinez, she said calmly, before you arrest me, would you mind if I showed you something from my bag? No, Brenda screamed. She's trying to distract you. Probably has a weapon. The crowd gasped and stepped back. Ma'am, keep your hands visible, Martinez said, his hand moving to his weapon. I understand your caution, Maya replied. But I think once you see what's in here, this entire situation might look very different. The departure countdown hit 14 minutes. Jessica's live stream audience had grown to 18,000 viewers, all waiting to see how this confrontation would end. And Maya Henderson was about to show them something that would change everything. 4:02 p.m. Departure in 13 minutes. Maya reached slowly into her messenger bag while Officer Martinez kept his hand positioned near his weapon. The entire first-class cabin held its collective breath as she withdrew a worn leather portfolio that had clearly seen years of important use. Ma'am, absolutely no sudden movements, Martinez warned, his voice tense with authority and caution. Maya opened the portfolio with deliberate, methodical calm. The first document she revealed was a laminated identification badge that caught and reflected the overhead cabin lights with official authenticity. Linda Lane squinted at the badge from several feet away, trying to read the small print. Her face went completely devastatingly white as the words became clear. "Oh, my dear God," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the cabin noise. The badge read in bold official lettering, "Maya Henderson, Chief Executive Officer, American Airlines." Brenda's triumphant expression froze mid-sneer like a photograph capturing the exact moment of realization. That's obviously fake, too. Anyone with a computer can make fake identification badges nowadays. But Maya wasn't finished revealing her credentials. She withdrew a second document with practiced precision. Thick, official corporate letterhead with the American Airlines logo embossed in genuine gold leaf that was impossible to counterfeit. "This is my official appointment letter," Maya said with unnatural calm, holding the document up for everyone in the cabin to examine closely. "Signed personally by the chairman of the board of directors, dated January 15th, 2021. Formally appointing Maya Henderson as Chief Executive Officer of American Airlines effective immediately." Morrison's official radio fell from his suddenly trembling hand, clattering loudly to the aircraft floor like dropped metal. Captain Kane pushed forward aggressively, snatching the appointment document directly from Maya's hands with desperate urgency. His experienced eyes scanned the official corporate seals, the impossible-to-forge watermarks, the precise legal language that would be completely impossible to fake convincingly. His weathered face drained of absolutely all color, turning ash and gray. This simply cannot be real." He stammered, his voice cracking with disbelief and growing terror. "There's no way this is authentic." Jessica's live stream exploded into complete digital chaos. The comment section went absolutely insane with shocked reactions. "Holy. Is this actually real? No way. No way. No way. The CEO, the actual real CEO, they're all getting fired right now. This is the greatest plot twist in history. I'm literally screaming. Karma is beautiful." Her viewer count hit 25,000 and was climbing exponentially by the second as people shared the stream across every social media platform imaginable. Maya calmly retrieved her personal phone and deliberately dialed a number she knew by heart, putting the call on speakerphone so every person in the cabin could hear clearly. The professional ringtone echoed through the completely silent aircraft cabin. Janet Morrison speaking, Executive Office of the Chief Executive Officer, American Airlines. "Hello, Janet. This is Maya calling from the field. I'm currently experiencing some difficulties on Flight 447 to JFK International Airport. Could you please officially confirm my identity for the crew and passengers who seem to be having trouble believing my credentials?" A brief professional pause. "Of course, Miss Henderson. Ladies and gentlemen, you are speaking with Maya Henderson, Chief Executive Officer of American Airlines, officially appointed by the Board of Directors in January 2021. She's traveling today specifically for tomorrow's quarterly board meeting at corporate headquarters in Fort Worth." The silence that followed was absolutely completely deafening. Brenda's face had transitioned from pale white to a sickly green color. She backed away from Maya slowly, as if Maya had suddenly become radioactive and dangerous to approach. I didn't know, Ms. Henderson. I had absolutely no way of knowing who you were. Please understand." "Wait, you slapped the actual CEO directly in the face." Officer Martinez stared at Brenda in complete horror, his professional composure cracking. "You physically assaulted the head of the entire airline." Morrison was now frantically attempting to reconnect with Patricia Walsh through his radio, his hands shaking so violently he could barely operate the basic controls properly. Maya withdrew yet another official document from her comprehensive portfolio. This one significantly thicker than the others, bound with multiple legal seals and covered in executive signatures. "This is my personal stock ownership certificate," she explained with continued supernatural calm, officially documenting that I personally own 12% of American Airlines stock. That makes me the second largest individual shareholder in the entire company, behind only the founding family trust. She paused deliberately, allowing that staggering information to sink into everyone's consciousness completely. In other words, I don't just work for this airline as an employee. I literally own a controlling stake in this company. Captain Kane was now reading and rereading the appointment letter obsessively, as if staring at the document longer would somehow make it say something completely different. The corporate seals were undeniably authentic. The signatures were genuine originals. The legal language was absolutely bulletproof and impossible to forge. "Miss Henderson," he began tentatively, his voice cracking with obvious terror. We had absolutely no idea of your position." "Of course you had no idea," Maya replied with devastating calm, "because none of you ever bothered to ask questions or verify information. You saw worn jeans and simple sneakers and immediately automatically assumed I was a criminal attempting to defraud your airline. Jessica's live stream had transformed into a genuine global phenomenon. The viewer count hit 35,000 and was still climbing rapidly. CEO reveal was now trending nationally across all platforms, completely overtaking and replacing Dashka's first-class fraud. Comments were pouring in frantically from viewers around the entire world. "This is the greatest revenge story ever told in human history. Karma is absolutely real and beautiful. That flight attendant is completely done. I'm literally crying tears of joy. This is so perfect. Justice served live in real time. Get her, Maya. Destroy them. This is better than any movie ever made." But Maya still wasn't completely finished with her systematic revelations. She reached into her portfolio one final time and withdrew a thick manila folder prominently marked Confidential Board of Directors, Eyes Only Discrimination Investigation. "There's something else absolutely critical that everyone in this cabin should know immediately," Maya said, her voice maintaining its eerily supernatural calm despite the complete chaos erupting around her. She opened the confidential folder methodically, revealing dozens of official documents, color photographs, detailed incident reports, and legal testimonies. This folder contains comprehensive documentation of exactly 47 separate discrimination complaints filed against this specific crew over the past 18 months alone. The crowd of passengers gasped audibly in shock and horror. 47 documented incidents of passengers being systematically mistreated, harassed, and discriminated against based solely on their race, gender, religion, sexual orientation, or economic appearance. All incidents involving the exact same flight attendants, the exact same manager, and the exact same captain currently standing in this cabin. She held up a color photograph that made Brenda stumble backward in recognition and terror. Here's a photo of Brenda Collins deliberately refusing to serve food to a Muslim passenger during Ramadan, claiming it was against company policy. Here's documented evidence of Steve Morrison removing an entire Hispanic family from first-class seating because their children were allegedly too loud and disruptive, despite multiple white families with significantly louder children being allowed to remain. Here's recorded testimony of Captain Kane making sexually inappropriate comments about female passengers' clothing and appearance. Morrison was now desperately, frantically trying to reach Patricia Walsh through multiple communication channels. Patricia, please respond immediately. We have a catastrophic situation. The passenger, she's, oh dear God in heaven." Maya's personal phone rang with an official tone. She answered it immediately on speaker for maximum impact. "Maya, this is James Richardson, chairman of the board of directors. I just received urgent word about a serious incident involving you personally on one of our aircraft. Are you physically safe and unharmed? The chairman of the board, the single most powerful person in the entire global airline industry. I'm completely fine physically, James, but we urgently need to discuss some extremely serious federal policy violations that are happening in real time on Flight 447, all being broadcast live to tens of thousands of witnesses. I'm currently watching the live stream along with approximately half the country and several board members. The entire executive board is calling an emergency session within the hour." Maya, I am personally and professionally devastated that this happened to you. Brenda had started crying uncontrollably. Not tears of sadness or remorse. Tears of pure absolute terror as the full reality of her situation became crystal clear. Her career wasn't just over, it was destroyed. "Please, I'm begging you," she sobbed desperately. "Miss Henderson, I honestly didn't know who you were. I was just trying to do my job properly. I have a family to support. I have mortgage payments. I have medical bills. Your job?" Maya replied with devastating precision, "is to treat every single passenger with dignity, respect, and professional courtesy, not just the passengers who happen to look like they can afford first-class accommodations." Morrison's radio finally connected successfully with Patricia Walsh after multiple attempts. Steve, whatever you're doing right now, stop everything immediately. That passenger is Maya Henderson. She's our chief executive officer. The entire board of directors is watching this live stream. You've just created the single biggest public relations disaster in aviation industry history. Far too late. Officer Martinez carefully removed his handcuffs and stepped respectfully away from Maya. "Ms. Henderson, I sincerely apologize for this misunderstanding. This situation was clearly misrepresented to law enforcement." No, Maya said with firm, unwavering authority. This wasn't a simple misunderstanding or communication error. This was systematic institutional discrimination based entirely on racial profiling and classist assumptions about human worth. She turned deliberately to address Jessica's live stream camera, directly speaking to her global audience. "My name is Maya Henderson. I am the Chief Executive Officer of American Airlines. For the past 3 years, I have been conducting completely unannounced passenger experience audits by flying anonymously on our flights specifically to identify problems like this." The live stream audience exploded with excitement. 40,000 viewers and climbing rapidly. "Today I discovered that some of our employees systematically treat passengers like criminals based solely on their physical appearance and economic assumptions. That discrimination ends immediately." Captain Kane was frantically reading corporate policy manuals on his phone, desperately trying to calculate exactly how much trouble he was facing. The answer was comprehensive: career-ending trouble. Brenda had completely collapsed into an empty seat, sobbing uncontrollably with the knowledge that her life was forever changed. Morrison kept repeating like a broken record, "This cannot be happening. This simply cannot be happening to us." But Maya Henderson had one final revelation that would change absolutely everything for everyone involved. She pulled out her phone and displayed the screen directly to Jessica's live stream camera for maximum global impact. "I've been continuously recording high-quality audio of this entire interaction from the moment I boarded. Every discriminatory slur, every prejudiced comment, every single violation of federal civil rights law, all of it documented with legal precision." The recording application clearly showed 37 minutes of continuous, uninterrupted audio evidence, perfect legal documentation of everything that had transpired. Jessica's live stream hit 50,000 viewers as people around the world watched the most spectacular reversal of fortune in modern aviation history unfold in real time, and Maya Henderson was just getting started with the consequences. 4:07 p.m. Departure in 8 minutes. Maya stood calmly in the center of the chaos, surrounded by trembling employees and stunned passengers. Her phone displayed call logs showing 23 missed calls from corporate headquarters, the board of directors, and legal departments. She ignored them all. "Since we're all gathered here together," Maya said, her voice carrying the quiet authority of someone accustomed to commanding boardrooms, "let's discuss some very specific numbers that everyone should understand." She opened her portfolio to a section marked Financial Impact Analysis. American Airlines generated exactly $48.97 billion in total revenue last year. Our profit margins operate on extremely tight calculations, where every incident, every lawsuit, every public relations disaster directly impacts shareholder value. Morrison was still frantically trying to reach Patricia Walsh, his hands shaking so violently he could barely operate his radio. Sweat was beading on his forehead despite the air conditioning. Maya continued with devastating precision. Discrimination lawsuits in the airline industry cost an average of $2.3 million per individual incident. That includes legal fees, settlements, punitive damages, and regulatory fines. She paused, letting the financial implications sink in while Jessica's live stream audience hit 55,000 viewers. Social media incidents of this magnitude typically reduce stock value by an average of 4.2% within the first 24 hours. Based on our current market capitalization, that represents approximately $890 million in immediate shareholder losses. Captain Ka's face went gray as he calculated his pension disappearing in real time. Maya withdrew another document from her portfolio, this one bearing the official seal of the Department of Transportation and the Federal Aviation Administration. Under Federal Aviation Regulation, Part 382, the Air Carrier Access Act, and Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. What has occurred here today constitutes multiple federal violations, each carrying potential criminal charges. Brenda looked up from her sobbing. Criminal charges, physical assault of a passenger, destruction of valid travel documents, discrimination based on race, and perceived economic status, filing false reports with law enforcement. Each violation carries a potential sentence of up to 2 years in federal prison. Officer Martinez stepped forward uncomfortably. "Ms. Henderson, if you want to press charges, we'll discuss that momentarily," Maya replied. "But first, I want everyone to understand exactly what systematic discrimination costs." She produced her final document, the one she'd been saving. Confidential Discrimination Audit, American Airlines Flight Operations, 18-month analysis. This comprehensive report documents not just the 47 incidents involving this specific crew, but patterns of discrimination across our entire domestic flight network. Maya opened the report to a page filled with charts and statistics that made Morrison's radio slip from his trembling fingers again. Our investigation found that passengers of color are 340% more likely to be questioned about ticket validity. They're 280% more likely to be asked for additional identification. They're 450% more likely to be removed from flights for disruptive behavior, despite identical conduct from white passengers being tolerated or ignored. The numbers hit the cabin like physical blows. Jessica's live stream comments exploded with outrage. "Those statistics are horrifying. This is systematic racism exposed live. How is this legal in 2024? Sue them for everything. This is why I drive everywhere." Maya's phone rang. She glanced at the caller ID and smiled coldly. James Richardson again. "Son, I should probably take this call." She answered on speakerphone for maximum impact. "Maya, the entire board is in an emergency session. We're prepared to offer whatever resolution you deem appropriate. The company's reputation is James." Maya interrupted. "I'm going to give everyone in this cabin a choice right now in front of 55,000 live stream viewers and growing." The cabin fell dead silent, except for Brenda's quiet sobbing. "Mr. Morrison, Miss Collins, Captain Kane, you have exactly 2 options. I'm going to explain both choices clearly, and you're going to make your decision immediately." Morrison tried to speak, but no words came out. Option 1, immediate suspension without pay, pending full federal investigation. Mandatory 120 hours of sensitivity training and bias education. Public written apology to be published in major newspapers and social media. Permanent notation in your personnel files. Probationary employment status for a minimum of 2 years. The crew members looked at each other in horror. Option 2, immediate termination for cause with permanent ban from all airline industry employment. Personal legal liability for all corporate damages, including stock losses, legal fees, and punitive damages, federal criminal charges filed for civil rights violations, public testimony required in all related discrimination lawsuits. Maya checked her watch. "You have 30 seconds to decide." Patricia Walsh's voice finally crackled through Morrison's radio with panic and desperation. Steve, corporate legal is on line 1. The stock price is dropping in real time. CNN is calling for interviews. The Department of Transportation is opening an investigation. What is happening up there? Morrison grabbed his radio. Patricia the passenger, she's the CEO. She's Maya Henderson. She's the actual CEO of the entire airline. Static then. Oh my God. Oh my dear God. Steve, do whatever she says, whatever she wants. The board is in complete crisis mode. Maya's phone showed breaking news alerts cascading across the screen. American Airlines CEO slapped by flight attendant in shocking discrimination incident. Airline stock plummets as CEO discrimination video goes viral. Transportation Department opens investigation into American Airlines. Civil rights groups call for boycott of American Airlines. The live stream audience had exploded to 75,000 viewers. Hatch AA discrimination was trending globally. Time's up, Maya announced. I need your decisions now. Brenda spoke first, her voice breaking. Option 1, please. I chose option 1. I have children to support. Captain Kane nodded frantically. Option 1. Absolutely. Option 1. Morrison looked around desperately as if searching for escape routes that didn't exist. Option 1, he whispered. Excellent choice, Mia said coldly. Those decisions are now part of the public record witnessed by 75,000 people and recorded for legal purposes. She turned to address the live stream camera directly. But this isn't just about individual accountability. This is about systematic change throughout the entire airline industry. Maya's phone rang again. This time she showed the caller ID to the camera. Secretary of Transportation, United States Government. She answered the speaker. Ms. Henderson, this is Secretary Johnson. The Department of Transportation is prepared to launch a comprehensive investigation into discriminatory practices across all major airlines. We'd like your cooperation. You have it completely, Secretary Johnson, but I'm announcing immediate changes that won't wait for federal investigations. Maya looked directly into Jessica's camera. Effective immediately, American Airlines will implement the following mandatory reforms. First, every crew member will complete 40 hours of unconscious bias training within 60 days or face termination. Second, we're launching a passenger rights mobile app that allows real-time reporting of discrimination with automatic corporate review. Third, every discrimination incident will trigger immediate investigation by our new Office of Passenger Equity, headed by civil rights attorneys. Fourth, we're establishing a $50 million annual fund for diversity initiatives and discrimination prevention programs. Fifth, executive bonuses for all management will now be tied directly to discrimination incident reduction and passenger satisfaction scores among minority travelers. The live stream audience was cheering virtually. Comments flooded in. Yes, systemic change. This is how you use power for good. Every airline needs to do this. Queen behavior. Morrison's radio crackled one final time. Patricia Walsh's voice was barely recognizable through her panic. Steve, the board wants me to ask, is there anything else? Anything else we can do? The stock is down 6% and falling. Maya looked around at the crew members who had humiliated her, the passengers who had cheered her degradation, and the cameras that had captured everything. Actually, Patricia, there is one more thing. The cabin held its breath. I want every person who witnessed this discrimination and said nothing, who cheered when I was being abused, who assumed I was guilty because of my appearance. I want them to remember this moment, because the next time they see someone being treated unfairly, they'll have to decide. Will they be part of the problem or part of the solution? Maya closed her portfolio and returned it to her messenger bag. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a flight to catch. We're already 8 minutes late. 4:12 p.m. Departure in 3 minutes. The aircraft cabin had transformed from a scene of discrimination into something resembling a corporate crisis center. Maya's phone buzzed continuously with calls from news networks, civil rights organizations, and government agencies. Jessica's live stream had reached 85,000 viewers as news outlets began covering the story in real time. Ladies and gentlemen, Maya announced to the cabin, her voice carrying the unmistakable authority of executive command. Before this flight departs, there are immediate consequences that will be implemented right now. She opened her phone to a conference call application and dialed a number marked Emergency Board Meeting. James, patch me through to the full board. Every member needs to hear this. Chairman Richardson's voice came through the speaker along with background voices of other board members in heated discussion. Maya, we're here. The entire executive board, legal counsel, and media relations team. Good, because I'm implementing immediate changes that won't wait for committee reviews or quarterly meetings. Maya looked directly at Brenda, who was still collapsed in a seat, mascara starry down her cheeks. Brenda Collins, you are hereby suspended without pay, effective immediately. You will report to Human Resources within 48 hours for disciplinary proceedings. Your actions today violated federal civil rights laws and company policy. Brenda nodded frantically through her tears. Yes, ma'am. I understand. I'm so sorry. Steve Morrison, you are demoted from manager to ground crew, effective immediately. Your salary is reduced to entry-level wages. You will complete 160 hours of sensitivity training before being eligible for any supervisory role. Morrison's face crumpled. Miss Henderson, please. I have a mortgage. I have kids in college. You should have considered that before assuming I was a criminal based on my appearance. Captain Kane, you are stripped of your senior captain status and reassigned to domestic short-haul flights. Your pay grade is reduced by 40%. You will undergo psychological evaluation and bias training before flying international routes again. Kane's decorated career was dissolving in real time. Ma'am, I've been flying for 37 years, and in 37 years you never learned to treat passengers with basic human dignity. The live stream audience was cheering virtually. Comments poured in. Justice served. This is how accountability works. Finally, someone with power doing the right thing. Maya addressed the phone conference. James, I want these policy changes implemented across all American Airlines operations within 30 days. First, every crew member will wear body cameras during passenger interactions. All footage will be reviewed by our new Passenger Rights Division. Second, any discrimination complaint will trigger automatic suspension pending investigation. No exceptions. Third, we're partnering with the NAACP, ACLU, and civil rights organizations to create oversight committees with real authority to investigate and impose penalties. Richardson's voice came through the speaker. Maya, the legal team is concerned about the liability implications. The liability of continuing discrimination is far greater than the cost of preventing it. These changes are non-negotiable. Maya turned to address Linda Lane, who had witnessed everything in stunned silence. Linda, you're promoted to Regional Operations Manager effective immediately. Your first assignment is implementing these new policies. Linda's eyes widened. Miss Henderson, I thank you. I won't let you down. I know you won't because you treated me like a human being when everyone else saw a problem to be solved. Maya's phone displayed breaking news alerts in real time. American Airlines stock recovers as CEO announces major reforms. Transportation Secretary praises airlines' discrimination response. Civil rights leaders call Henderson Leader of the Year. Officer Martinez approached respectfully. Ms. Henderson, do you want to press charges against the crew members? Maya considered this carefully while 90,000 people watched on live stream. Officer Martinez, I want something more powerful than criminal charges. I want them to spend the next year learning why their assumptions were wrong. I want them to become advocates for change instead of examples of what not to do. She turned to face Brenda directly. Brenda, part of your probation will involve speaking at diversity training sessions across the airline industry. You're going to tell your story, all of it, to thousands of employees. You're going to help prevent this from happening to anyone else. Brenda looked up, tears still flowing. I will. I promise. I want to make this right. Good, because accountability isn't about punishment. It's about growth. Maya's phone rang again. She showed the caller ID to the live stream. Oprah Winfrey. She declined the call and smiled slightly. I think we've had enough cameras for one day. The digital departure board updated. Flight 447, departure 1 minute. A new flight attendant appeared. Maria Santos, professionally dressed and clearly nervous about the situation she was walking into. Ms. Henderson, I'm Maria Santos, your replacement flight attendant for this journey. How can I ensure your comfort today? Maya looked at Maria's name tag, noting the small pride flag pin next to it. Maria, treat every passenger exactly the way you treated me just now, with respect, professionalism, and human dignity. That's all anyone wants. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. The passengers in first class had remained unusually quiet throughout the confrontation. Now, one by one, they began approaching Maya. An elderly businessman who had earlier agreed with Brenda's actions stepped forward hesitantly. Miss Henderson, I owe you an apology. I made assumptions, too. I was wrong. Others followed. I'm sorry I recorded instead of helping. I should have spoken up when I saw what was happening. Thank you for handling this with such grace. Jessica, still live streaming, approached with her phone camera. Miss Henderson, my audience wants to know, how do you feel right now? Maya looked directly into the camera, addressing the 95,000 people watching worldwide. I feel hopeful, not because justice was served today, but because change is possible when people choose to grow instead of defending their prejudices. She paused, gathering her thoughts. This isn't about me being the CEO. This is about every person who gets treated like I was treated today, but doesn't have the power to fight back. This is about the single mothers, the students, the elderly passengers, the immigrants who face discrimination every day and have no voice. The live stream comments had shifted completely. This woman is a real leader using her power to help others. This is what justice looks like. Every CEO should watch this. Maya returned to her seat. 2A, the seat she'd been assigned all along. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Captain Williams, your replacement captain for today. We're cleared for departure to JFK. Flight time will be approximately 5 hours and 30 minutes. As the plane finally began to taxi, Maya opened her laptop and began typing. The memo was addressed to every American Airlines employee worldwide. Subject today, we choose change. The transformation had begun. 3 months later, Maya sat in her corner office on the 47th floor of American Airlines headquarters in Fort Worth, Texas. The wall behind her desk displayed framed articles from major newspapers, the slap heard around the world, how one CEO changed aviation forever, and the Henderson effect. Airlines embrace reform. Her assistant knocked and entered. Miss Henderson, the quarterly discrimination report is ready for your review. Maya opened the thick document, scanning the statistics that would have been unimaginable just months earlier. Discrimination complaints down 78% across all American Airlines operations. Customer satisfaction among minority passengers up 45%. Employee bias training completion rate 99.7%. Stock price up 23% from pre-incident levels. But the numbers that mattered most were different ones. 0 incidents of passenger slapping. 0 boarding pass destructions. 0 passengers were humiliated based on appearance. Her phone buzzed with a text from Brenda Collins. Ms. Henderson completed my 40th bias training session today. Teaching crew in Detroit tomorrow. Thank you for giving me a chance to grow instead of just punishing me. B. Maya smiled. Redemption was possible when people chose it. Jessica Winters had parlayed her viral live stream into a social justice platform with 2.3 million followers. Her bio now reads, "Witnessing change, promoting equity learning every day." Her latest post showed her at an airport interviewing passengers about their travel experiences. The comments section had transformed from toxic to supportive, with people sharing stories of positive interactions and calling out discrimination when they saw it. The ripple effects had spread far beyond American Airlines. United, Delta, Southwest, and every major carrier had implemented similar reforms. The Henderson protocols became industry standard. Body cameras for crew real-time discrimination reporting, mandatory bias training, and executive accountability tied to passenger equity metrics. The Department of Transportation had codified these practices into federal regulation. Secretary Johnson called it the most significant civil rights advancement in aviation history. Maya's phone rang. The caller ID showed Oprah Winfrey a call she'd been avoiding for months. This time she answered. Maya Henderson speaking. Ms. Henderson, this is Oprah. I've been trying to reach you for an interview about your incredible story of transformation and justice. Oprah, with respect, this story isn't about me. It's about the millions of people who face discrimination every day without cameras recording or CEOs standing up for them. That's exactly why I want to talk to you. Your platform, your voice, you could inspire so many people. Maya considered this. What if we did something different? What if instead of talking about what happened to me, we highlighted the people who are creating change in their own communities? I love that idea. 2 weeks later, The Henderson Effect aired as a special Oprah segment featuring ordinary people who had witnessed discrimination and chosen to act. A teacher who challenged bias in her classroom. A store manager who changed hiring practices. A neighbor who stood up to racist comments. Each story began the same way. I saw what Maya Henderson did, and I decided to do something too. Maya returned to flying regularly, always in simple clothes, always observing. But now crew members recognized her instantly, not as the CEO, but as the woman who had changed everything. On a recent flight to Chicago, she watched a young black man in a hoodie approach first class with his boarding pass. The flight attendant, a woman Maya had never met, greeted him warmly. "Welcome aboard, Mr. Johnson. Can I help you with your carry-on?" No questions about ticket validity, no assumptions about fraud, just professional service progress. Maya opened her laptop and began writing her weekly blog post for the American Airlines website, a practice she'd started after the incident. This week's topic: why change requires courage from everyone. 3 months ago, I was slapped, humiliated, and almost arrested because people made assumptions about who I was based on how I looked. But here's what I learned. Real change doesn't happen when someone with power stands up. Real change happens when everyone chooses to see each other differently. She paused, thinking about her next words carefully. So here's my challenge to everyone reading this week. Notice the invisible people around you. The cashier works 2 jobs to support her family, the janitor who speaks 3 languages, the security guard with an engineering degree, the person whose story you know by job title but not by dreams. Ask questions instead of making assumptions. Listen instead of judging. Stand up instead of staying silent when you see discrimination. Because the next Maya Henderson might not be a CEO with the power to fight back. She might be someone who needs you to be her voice. Maya posted the blog and immediately received hundreds of comments from readers sharing their own stories of change growth and standing up for others. Her phone buzzed with a text from James Richardson. Board meeting moved to 3:00 p.m. CNN wants to discuss the annual report. Discrimination incidents down 89% industry-wide. "You changed everything, Maya," she responded. "We all changed everything. That's how real progress works." The flight that was supposed to last 5 hours and 30 minutes had changed an entire industry in less than 4 months. Maya Henderson had answered the call to justice. Now she was asking everyone else to answer it too. If this story moved, you share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to Black Voices Uncut for more stories of courage and change. And tell us in the comments, what will you do differently after watching this? Because real change starts with each of us choosing to see better, do better, and be better. The story you heard today wasn't cleaned up. It was told exactly as it happened. At Black Voices Uncut, we believe that's the only way truth can live. If you felt something hit, like, comment and your reaction and subscribe. Every week we bring you voices that refuse to be silenced.